anything.
Going to be here.
I will call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting to deal with the deed BDPI grant agreement, and then that would also then impact the award of the bid. So, Jason, there's some detail to go through here, so I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll just do a quick recap. The city recently received word that we're likely to receive $2 million in deed BDPI grant funding for the Commerce Industrial Park project. The city bid the project with a base bid and an alternate bid. The alternate bid being a bid that included prevailing wages in case we got state grant funding. The contract also included 90 days for holding the bids prior to award, and the 90th day is tomorrow, July 19th. Because DEED will not allow the project to be awarded prior to having an executed grant agreement in place, staff's recommending that we award the project contingent upon receipt of an executed grant agreement. It's likely that an executed agreement would not be in place until October. The reasoning for that is that we have to issue bonds prior to them giving us an executed agreement, from my understanding. So in order for us to issue bonds, I think that brings us into the end of September, and then they need a few weeks to handle things on their end. So we're probably looking at mid-October award, if you will, or a project start. The low alternate bid was submitted by Midwest Contracting of Marshall for the amount of $4,004,847.25. Mr. Bill Otto of Midwest has agreed to honor his bid prices until we can get an executed agreement in place. Using the maximum $2 million grant and subtracting MMU's 50-50 contribution, the city's cost, including contingency and engineering, would be estimated at $1.439 million. So there's two recommendations in front of you. One, to acknowledge receipt of potential award of grant funding, and another to award your project contingent upon receipt of the executed grant agreement. We've spoken with DEED, and this language is adequate with them, that we won't be ruining our potential to receive the grant by awarding with the contingency that the executed agreement's in place. So we're delaying the award, if you will. So if you have any questions, I or Dennis can try to help answer them, and Mr. Bill Otto is here from Midwest Contracting as well.
Okay, thank you, Jason. I recognize and appreciate the work that you, and Carla, and Sheila, and Dennis have done over the past few days, hours, to get all these details in place.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. I was going to say, we certainly all appreciate that. We also appreciate Mr. Otto's agreement to hold those prices somewhat indefinitely. I thank you, Bill, for that. The city. This is a good price for the city, and I think it's business risk Mr. Otto is taking to extend those prices out this far into the future. So we certainly appreciate that acknowledgement as well. But we are dealing with the $2 million, so we do have to fall in step with the requirements from the state of Minnesota. This is a construction project, so we have to have our financing in line up front. City has to pay, the initial expenses. Then it's a reimbursement by the state during the project that's being run. So the state wants to know that the bills will be paid. Mr. Otto wants to know the bills will be paid timely, and then. But it is $2 million, which significantly cuts down the obligation from the city. And then we have the partnership agreement, so city and MMU are each responsible for 1/2 of the funds not paid for by the grant funds.
Right. So my understanding then is that we will be issuing bonds for the entire amount, and a portion of those bonds will be repaid by the DEED grant. Is that correct?
We will be issuing bonds for the remaining of the project cost minus the DEED grants and minus the amount MMU will be giving us this year. And those will be TIF. We're looking at TIF bond.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
For that, because it's industrial area.
Sure.
So
Carla, that's more like $2 million then.
That is correct. you're looking at more of a $2 million bond. And I've been in contact with Springsteads, and we'll be getting a timeline for the sale of those bonds in the next couple of days, so.
And we're comfortable with all the language of the, which comes first, cutting the bonds before we get the deed play.
I've also sent an email off on just regarding that, and the agreement reads that all funds must be available and in place before the award of the bonds. I directly talked to somebody from MMB, the Minnesota Management and Budget, and indicated to them that you're asking us, the city, to sell bonds and sit on money with interest. And they acknowledge that there's an associated cost with that, but this is how that grant is run. So.
That grant comes with this 25-page booklet about what you have to step through to do all of that. So yes, there has been quick reading this morning reviewing the grant process.
Other questions?
So, okay. So again, I was just reading through some stuff here, and just maybe I didn't hear correctly here, but so we are passing this resolution, and then the city officials will sign a contract with Midwest regarding the project, right?
Subject to and contingent upon the approval of the grant. So it's as firm as we can get today.
Okay. So so we're waiting until it's approved to sign the contract.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And that's okay with them, with everyone. I mean,
we've spoken.
So
with
I just
Midwest,
wanted to make sure I was looking through this and making sure it wasn't that we sign a contract and the contract is contingent upon deed approval.
Our intent would be to receive deed approval and then enter into a construction contract.
So the contract comes second.
Right, per deed.
And that's the way it reads here, I thought, and I wasn't sure if that was really what was intended or not. So
that is what is intended.
What's it?
That is what is intended.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because that's the way I read it, and I was thinking that they would want the contract signed and then the approval, but this makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Not. Action one would be the motion in order to acknowledge the receipt of the potential notice of award from the BDPI grant agreement.
I so move.
Second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by David. Discussion? The only discussion, I think there was, and someone can, David, maybe you remember the total amount. It was like $13 million that was in the bonding bill for the entire state
Or
for the BTPI grant
sounds
program.
about right. Yes.
Anyway, I guess my point is, this is a significant grant and a significant allocation of the resources that the state has for the entire state. So,
and one more thing I forgot to mention, Your Honor. One of the things we have to do is it's almost like a state mortgage goes against this property. There's a declaration that the property owners understand that their state funds used for this project. That declaration has been drafted because the owners of the property are the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and MMU owns their lots. MMU Commission is meeting tonight and will be acknowledging and signing that declaration, verifying, yes, we understand state monies in use. That does not prohibit transfers. That's the same process that we went through originally on that old high school site that is now the facility, the Heritage Point. Same thing, we had to put a declaration there. Same thing, Sonstegard. We had to sign a declaration. Yes, we understand that state money's involved. That does not in any way prohibit future sales. But just with that acknowledgement, that document will be coming forward for HRA signature when we meet next week. We'll be calling an HRA meeting. Yes.
Dennis, does that carry over when we do sell the property? Is there an additional acknowledgement that the new buyer signs?
No, the state has to sign off acknowledging that this property is released pursuant to a sale from that declaration. So the state, yes, does acknowledge that we would be...
They acknowledge the eventual sale.
Correct.
other discussion on the motion?
In the resolution, I was just wondering about the wording there. It says contingent to execution. Would it be contingent upon execution or contingent?
That could be edited, yes.
So
I think upon is the better.
I'd second that.
Thank you.
So you're on the
But that's
second
not the
motion.
motion that's on the,
We're on motion number one.
Just number one.
Okay, any other discussion on motion acknowledging the receipt of the potential notice of award? If not, we'll move to a vote. Motion passes, and then the second action then would be the resolution that would accept the bid from Midwest Contracting contingent on the execution of the BDPI grant.
I'll move that motion.
Motion by David,
second,
seconded by Craig. Discussion?
And then
with that change of two from two to up on.
Yes.
With that modification, yes.
Is that clear, Kathy?
Bill?
The only thing that's not addressed here is there's no sunset on this agreement. It could carry on indefinitely. And should we put a date of January 1st, or who knows what happens in the future?
For the execution or for the job completion?
Well, for the execution.
Contract
first,
execution.
the job completion will be adjusted accordingly when the
right.
contract is executed.
When would next construction season begin? May 1st?
Or in,
Well, we'll start looking for work for next year in November, December, January, all the way through the winter. And I don't know what the procedure with this DEEP grant is. If you get approval for your grant this year, then it's not going to be an issue. But will they carry this approval process through the winter?
Their fiscal year is July 1st, so we're into fiscal 19, or fiscal 18 right now.
right, from our discussions, our understanding is that the major holdup is going to be us getting our bonds issued. So they kind of told us that they can try to expedite the process, and within 2 to 3 weeks, they should be able to handle it on their end. If you want to put a sunset on it, maybe we could discuss that of January 1st, but, I would really be surprised if we go through October without having this in place.
And maybe January 1st is a good date.
Charlie, you're comfortable with that, right? I mean, certainly the bonds will be sold this year, so. You
Does
accept
that make
that?
sense, January 1?
It does, yes.
Yes, I'm just wondering about the mechanics. Do we add that as language to this motion, or do we vote on it separately?
The city can cancel this contract, this award, anytime they see fit, according to the contract language, the way I interpret it.
Yeah, and we would cancel it if we don't get a deed agreement,
Yeah.
then it would go away, yeah.
How offer this as language then? As in addition to motion 2, this agreement, tell me how we want to say this, will expire January 1st, 2018 if deed funding is not received? Is that-
No, if it's not approved, it
It's
won't
not
be,
approved, okay.
if the deed grant is not,
If the intended deed grant is not approved by January 1, 2018. Does that say it?
yes.
what I was going to ask Dennis here is, one of the attachment is from Mr. Otto regarding modifications to the bid and so forth, and it was signed and so forth. So is this something that would be handled in the agreement or contract, or is this something we would do by resolution?
No, that would be handled within the contract. The start date would be amended, the end date, but that's contractual, that's not resolution.
Right, and that's why I'm wondering if it needs to be part of the resolution, or if that's something you should
No,
negotiate as
I
part of
think
the...
we should sunset it with a resolution end date.
Right, because what we're sunsetting is his offer to hold. The contract won't be executed until we actually have the funds and move forward, because there's really there's an intent to proceed and then the contract, and that's based on all the pieces falling together, right?
And if I may offer as well, in our standard agreement form, it does state that every day that we hold bids after the 30 or 90 days, that we will extend the contract by 1 day. So that's always just a guarantee when we sign a contract that we'll extend by that amount. Anything else would just be what we discuss based on conditions that may have changed.
Sure.
So David, if I could, will restate your motion
Yes.
to include the January 1, 2018 as that last sentence there.
This agreement, if the deed BDPI grant is not approved.
And that's consistent with your second also, Craig?
Yes.
Okay, now discussion on that motion?
Perfect.
Any other
Bill,
discussion?
does that look all right to you? You're reading the yellow there?
Add of the last sentence.
It'll be on their
Okay. Do you want me to read it out, or?
Yeah, maybe, Bill, you could come
I
up.
can read this out to you. A motion to approve the resolution accepting bid award contract from Midwest Contracting from Marshall, Minnesota in the amount of $4,004,847.25 contingent upon execution of the BDPI grant agreement. This agreement will expire January 1, 2018 if the deed BDPI grant is not approved.
That's acceptable.
No, I'd say not this agreement, this resolution.
Just resolution, right?
This resolution will expire.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy, we got time if you,
No, we're
whatever you
good.
need to do there.
We're doing better.
And then agreement, in the last sentence
Right
should
on
be
mine.
changed to resolution.
Oh, which one?
Looking at mine, there was nothing there, and yours was there. Let's go in order.
Yeah, closer.
Does that look good?
Agreement needs to be
Oh.
resolution.
Does that look good?
I'm not seeing it.
Yep.
There it is.
Yep, that looks good.
Resolution will expire, yes.
Yep.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Carl.
If not, we will, if there's no other discussion, we'll move to a vote. Motion passes. There's no further business to come forward. I'll declare us adjourned. We're adjourned.
Oh,